Hello guys, it's Ben here from Next Gen Base, and as has been requested by quite a lot of people, we decided to do a little bit of performance analysis from some backward compatible games from the PS4. Some of these have locked frame rates on the PS4 Pro and the PS4, so we won't expect to see too much from them, but some of them have unlocked frame rates, so we're going to do a little bit of frame rate analysis and just see how we're looking on it. So this is Hitman 2, and we're launching into the Paris level. This is on the PS4 Pro, and as you can see, the frame rate is nowhere near solid. It kind of fluctuates from anywhere between 45 to up to about, very, very rare occasions, it kind of touches on 60. It's a strange one. This is using the performance mode, or the graphical fidelity mode rather, with the unlocked frame rate, so it is prioritising graphics rather than performance, but as you can see, the frame rate is a little bit all over the place and it just feels a little bit juddery while you're playing. Switching over to the PS5, however, it immediately looks better, and you can probably notice that that line is sticking around at 60 frames a second. It is absolutely solid. This is something that I kind of wasn't expecting, if I'm honest, because we all knew that the PS5 was going to be better for backward compatible games, but we thought that there'd be a lot that would need, a patch. Microsoft have obviously made a huge deal about their backwards compatible stuff being just working, and it will use the full power of the system regardless. I don't think we're quite expecting to see this level of performance out of a PS5 with unpatched games. So the next one I'm going to take you through is the walk around from Hitman 2's Whittleton Creek level. This is essentially a quick and easy benchmark that you can kind of set to run. Basically just walk around Whittleton Creek. Again, as you can see, frame rate is a little bit all over the place. It's definitely not that solid, and particularly during the intro sequences you can notice that the textures take a little bit longer to pop in on the PS4 Pro, primarily because it's running off a spinning hard drive. It's one of the benefits that you'll get from the PS5, where you have that solid state drive that is super quick to load in. So again, you can see here that it's sort of all over the shop again. It goes from the the mid 40s to about the mid 50s. It's rare that this one kind of tops out at 60 frames a second, but again, you can see the difference here when we switch over to the PS5. And here we are on the PlayStation 5. Again, no patches to Hitman 2 whatsoever. This is just straight from the PS4 Pro, the extended drive, unplugged it from the PS4 Pro, stuck it into the PS5, and away we go. And as you can see here, we're running at a locked 60 frames a second. This is with, the frame times are completely locked as well. Legitimately impressed with how this is handling Hitman 2. So the next title is one that is included on the PlayStation Plus collection. So that is a bunch of included games that you can download on the PlayStation 5 on day one if you're a PS Plus subscriber, and that is Monster Hunter World. So Monster Hunter definitely is one that I think people had a bit of a problem with on the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. This is running on the PS4 Pro's prioritized resolution mode. It's kind of the same level of performance as well with the prioritized graphics mode, but essentially, there is a prioritized frame rate mode which kind of tops that out. But this seems to be the most demanding mode, which is the prioritized resolution. And as you can see again, frame graph is all over the place. It seems to drop to kind of the low 30s or mid 30s at some points, but it very, very rarely tops that magical 60 frames per second mark. So what we're going to do now is switch over to the PS5 version, and we can immediately see that once again it's running at a locked 60 frames per second. This is a level of performance that I was genuinely not expecting. This is again running at the prioritized resolution mode, so it's going to be running at that high resolution for the whole thing. The graphics mode again is exactly the same. It runs at an absolutely locked 60 frames per second, so regardless of which mode you want to use, if you want to play Monster Hunter World, at least in the early area, it seems like it's going to be a locked 60 frames per second if you decide to give it a go. Okay, next up we have a couple of games that are kind of notorious for just running at 30 frames a second, but it was whether those 30 frames a second were very consistent. First one is The Last Guardian. So this was obviously a game that kind of like ran a little bit crazily. I think it was very, very rare that you'd get a consistent 30 frames per second in The Last Guardian. Whereas here on the PS5, it is absolutely flawless. I'd really like to see if there's a way that they can patch this to unlock the frame rate, because I think you could potentially like really see some benefits. Obviously, there are a couple of dips there. A couple of dips in the frame time. So you will jump from 30 to maybe 31 frames per second or 32, which can result in very, very small amounts of judder. It's really difficult to notice it, but on the whole, it runs at an absolutely solid locked 30 frames a second on the PS5. And next up, we have Destiny 2. Now, I know Destiny 2 at the moment is it's going to be receiving a PS5 patch, but for the moment it runs at a rock solid 30 frames per second. Didn't expect anything less, to be honest. I mean, there was no real performance issue on the PS4 Pro, or the base PS4, I think, for that matter. But I know that Nico was quite keen to see this, so this is mainly for his benefit, if I'm honest. This one is the big one. I think a lot of people were hoping that Bloodborne would run at a solid 30 and get rid of the frame timing issues. Unfortunately, as you can see there, it doesn't look like it's managed to completely eliminate the frame time issues that people were seeing. Essentially what that means is that you can, in some areas, experience a bit of judder and a bit of, it seems like the frame rate's off, but it is running at 30 frames a second, so it's a very strange one to describe. Essentially what will happen is you'll get 2 or 3 frames a little bit quicker than you would normally, and then that kind of results in a little bit of judder and a little bit of inconsistent feeling for it. So please don't hate on the gameplay. I am not a Bloodborne player. I kind of know this area because I played it for a stream once, but ultimately I'm not a Bloodborne player at all. So yeah, it smooths out some of the problems, but there are still issues with frame times to a point. Next up is Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. This was one that I know a couple of people on the site were definitely interested in, and also people have asked us questions about this too. Essentially, this is a game that runs on the PS4 Pro with an unlocked frame rate, so you can see kind of where the performance is on the Pro. As you can see here, it kind of is a bit all over the place. Again, it doesn't feel particularly smooth, but it's one of those that you will play and you go like, oh, okay, yeah, it sort of feels all right, but I could benefit with a more stable frame rate. So Sekiro here, jumping it from anywhere between 40 to, well, occasionally it touches 60, but yeah, it doesn't really do all that much, all that consistently. However, when we jump across over to the PS5 version, we can see once again that there is a solid line when it comes to the performance. This was quite possibly one of the most surprising results that I've seen. I know there's been a lot of people that have analysed Sekiro on the Xbox Series X, and they've said that it's almost a locked 60. This this is absolutely locked. I went through probably about an hour or so of Sekiro. Again, never played the game before, so I was a bit confused at what I was doing at points, but it was definitely one that I wanted to check out for performance purposes, and honestly, yeah, it's a solid 60 frames a second all the way through. Really, really impressed with how this handles Sekiro. And the final game that I think was probably the most requested, this is Dark Souls 3. Again, I am not a Soulsborne fan by any stretch of the imagination, so this is kind of out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I gave it a go. And yeah, again, you can see here, occasionally the frame rate kind of creeps up to that 60 frames a second mark, but it's all over the place. The frame times are here and there, and the frame rate goes from, again, I think it dips to kind of 40s at some point, or maybe even the 30s. But this is kind of one of the opening areas, so you can see here, the only real time you get to 60 is when you're not really staring at all that much. You're kind of looking at the sky. But... and this is where I think everybody is going to be quite surprised. Moving into Dark Souls 3, running on the PS5 without a patch, gives us yet another instance of a completely flat line on both frame rate and frame time. I know there was a lot of talk about developers would need to patch their games to run better on the PS5, but this is legitimately without any patches being applied for PS5 performance. It's just the raw console and the raw game just playing. Obviously it's been patched to a certain point, but there are no PS5 specific performance patches applied to these games at this stage. So honestly, I'm genuinely blown away. I mean, if there are any other games that people have got questions about, so if there's any other performance related queries, unlocked frame rates and things like that, we tried to find as many as we could, and I've tested as many as I thought would be possible. Some of them more or less locked 60 on the PS4 to the PS5, so didn't really include those in here, but again, yeah, Dark Souls 3 completely locked 60 frames a second. Loading times are improved as well with the inbuilt SSD. So let me know, are you guys going to be playing some of your old favourites again with enhanced performance? We shall see. Thank you for joining me, guys, though. If you have enjoyed the video, do drop us a like, leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like to see from the channel going forward with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and Series S. We've basically got all of them at this point to go through. So, yeah, let us know, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.